fighting our battles. When my feet are failing and my heart is shaking, you're fighting my battles. 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 You're fighting my battles.
He is there. He's there to fight our battles, and He's always behind us. We will always win.
I can see the promised land, though there's pain within the wind. There is victory in the end. Your love is my battle cry. When my fears like Jericho, build a wall around my soul. When my heart is overthrown, your love is my battle cry. The anthem for all my life. It will fall, the mountains will move, every chain of the past you've broken into. Over fear, over lies, we're singing the truth that nothing is impossible with you. There is only within the light, in the wars that rage inside. Though the shadows steal the light, your love is my battle cry. The anthem for all my life. You will fall, the mountains will move, every chain of the battle you've broken into. Over fear, over lies, we're singing the truth that nothing is impossible. You will fall, the mountains will move, every chain of the past you've broken into. Over fear, over lies, we're singing the truth that nothing is impossible with you. Nothing is possible. No greater name, no higher name, no stronger name than Jesus. You overcame, broke every chain, forever reigning Jesus. No greater name, no higher name, no stronger name than Jesus. You overcame, broke every chain, forever reigning Jesus. The mountains will move, every chain of the past you've broken into. Over fear, over lies, we're singing the truth that nothing is impossible. Every mountain will fall, the mountains will move, every chain of the past you've broken into. Over fear, over lies, we're singing the truth that nothing is impossible with you. Oh, nothing is impossible.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. So as I stated, I'm going to be talking about Gideon and Samson today. So, as we continue our journey through battles, I will be talking about two important people in the Bible, Gideon and Samson. They both were appointed by God to be judges, which in Hebrew times means deliverer. This is a person who is chosen by God to protect, preserve, and deliver, rescue Israel from their enemies. As we dig deeper into this message, we will realize how different these two individuals are and why their battles are so important. I'm going to introduce Gideon.
The boy who was given a name that meant Lord. As a man, he was called by God to lead 300 soldiers on an impossible mission. But we are not talking about a king from Sparta. This is a story straight out of the Bible. This is Gideon.
Battles over, long and long, that few stood against many.
Gideon appears to be weak, but he is strong. He lacks self-confidence, but he is useful to God in a unique way. He is appointed by God to be a judge. As his duty, he had to conquer their enemies and protect people of Israel. In Judges, we will learn the story of God's promise to protect us from very wicked and sinful people. God made a promise to preserve this nation. Through his protectors, we would bless the world and bring the Messiah. God indeed keeps his promise. The next generation started to worship idols, which in turn had a negative effect on Israel. The book of Judges records what happens in the span of 350 years. The old adage of history repeating itself, generation after generation, cycle after cycle, of rebellion, punishment, deliverance, and then rebellion, punishment, deliverance, and so on. God used the enemy nations that surrounded Israel to oppress them. God wanted people to recognize him as the reigning king, but they did not obey him. Therefore, they did not receive the blessing promised. In return, God had to raise up deliverers. Gideon was number 6 of 14 deliverers or judges. Gideon was considered weak and insecure. He didn't believe he could accomplish anything instructed by God. This didn't exactly make him leader material, but God insisted anyways. In Judges 6:1 it states, the Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight, so the Lord handed them over to the Midianites for 7 years. For 7 years they raided the land, destroyed crops, stole livestock, and killed people. God chooses Gideon to defeat the Midianites, but Gideon replies with stating how weak his clan was and how he was the least of his family. He made himself like a coward. This isn't a man with great faith. Sounds like a man with great weakness. The Lord still chooses Gideon to be the man of defeat, to defeat the Midianites, by proof of assuring him with acts of bravery. Gideon is to face his fear of dying and trust God's promise. Peace be with you, do not fear, you shall not die, said the Lord. Gideon goes forth and obeys God's commands, but still needed the reassurance. God comes through with more signs that he will not let Gideon die. Signs such as wool covered in dew, but the ground is dry. Then asked God to make the wool dry and the ground covered in dew. God provided just as Gideon requested. At this time, Gideon took his increased faith and formed an army of 32,000 men to face the Midianites. God insisted his army was too large and requested to downsize. God instructed Gideon to tell those men who were afraid to go home. So 22,000 men turned away and left. God still insisted on downsizing his army. So he states all the men go to the river and drink. And those who lap the water like a dog are the ones who stay. All others must go. Gideon complies with God's instruction. Gideon was left with 300 men to fight this battle against the Midianites. So he goes from 32,000 men to 300. Sounds like a great army. With faith in God and trusting his plan, the Midianites were defeated. Gideon was to be named king, but refused because he said God is the only one true king. This story is used by many people to test God by asking him to do different things before they step out into obedience to him. We are not to test the Lord, but trust in his plan and accept his word. We often question God and what he is capable of because humans need hard facts. Are you the type of person that has to see it in order to believe it? Are you the type of person who needs all 1,500 facts before realizing the truth? Do you question the words written in the Bible? It's okay to not know. It's okay not to be in control, and it's okay to have faith carry us through. We all struggle at some point with self-doubt or lack of confidence. At times, we are just plain timid and afraid. I will be honest, I struggle with this almost daily. The fear I struggle with the most is the fear of rejection. The fear that states, I'm afraid I won't be good enough. I find myself saying that a lot. We often find ourselves in an exhausting limbo of people who want us to be and who we really are. When we struggle with self-doubt and let insecurity call the shots, we're robbing the world of something beautiful. We're stealing away who God created us to be. We're holding back the real person the world needs us to be. Let's face it, we are terrible at assessing our own abilities. For example, creating your resume for a job interview. We are excellent self-doubters and terrible at noticing the truth about the incredible people we are. We need to stop saying, I'm not good enough, and start saying, God gave me these gifts and abilities on purpose. When fear, aka the devil, starts to whispers lies to you, try doing these 3 things. Watch your words, find a small way to break the habit of safety, and change your posture. The first one was watch your words. Pay attention to the words you speak to yourself. Avoid phrases like, I could never, well, I'll probably mess it up, or repeating, I'm sorry, over and over again. Start using phrases as, I belong here, my words matter, or I have something to offer the world. Make this rule. If you wouldn't say it to someone you love, then don't say it to yourself. Number 2 is find a small way to break the habit of safety. You cannot grow what you will not risk. So speak up when you normally would be silent. If your voice starts to break or shake, don't stop because you're breaking the fear of self-rejection. Share your true feelings when you would rather hide. Be brave in who you are. Don't let worry, insecurity, and self-doubt cut you from who you truly are because you were put on this earth for a purpose. Change your posture. This is literally. Change the way you hold yourself. Be open with your body language, as this makes you more positive through releasing a cortisol to make you more assertive and handle stress. When you collapse in your body language and close in on yourself, you become more passive and less confident. I struggle with that. Be brave with who you are. Knowing God of the universe created you, and He's got your back. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Stop robbing the world of your voice, don't take away your gift, and quit holding back the love you have to give. You can conquer the fear of rejection by allowing faith in God to drive your future. It's amazing what God did with a weak coward like Gideon, isn't it? God made a weak man to be strong and continues to do that daily. Now I'm going to introduce Samson.
Remember your prophecy. Samson, chosen by the living God, be his hand of vengeance. It's his will. He is the one.
This God gives you some strength.
3,000 to start. No wine, no touch.
judge. As his duty, he had to conquer their enemies and protect the people of Israel. Samson is quite opposite of Gideon. He's brash, reckless, and not easily intimidated. He sees himself as invincible. Samson was number 12 of the 14 of the judges appointed by God. The cycle of rebellion, punishment, and deliverance continues, but this time it's with the Philistines. Samson was considered a special son to his mother, as she was not able to have children until she received a blessing from God. He instructed her not to drink wine, not to eat anything unclean, and do not place her until her son is born. Samson was born a Nazarite, which means a life of separation. This makes him different from anyone else. With Samson being different, it made him quite cocky. He figured the rules didn't apply to him, so he ended up violating all 3 rules. He touched a dead body, he drank at his wedding, and he allowed his head to be shaved. His hair was the symbol of strength. Samson did not keep his vow and lived his life as a man driven by fleshly desires. He had a stubborn will, violent temper, and an absolute disregard for the Lord's commandments. So why did the Lord still appoint Samson? Despite his sinful choices, God still had a plan for Samson. God used him to rescue Israel from Philistines' oppression and aggression. As a young man, Samson insisted on marrying a Philistine woman, which was forbidden by God. Judges 14:3 states, Samson said to his father, "Get her for me, for she is right in my eyes." His parents tried to keep him from disobeying God, but Samson ignored their counsel and married her anyways. As Samson headed to her town, he encountered a fight with a lion, and he won. His strength was unbelievable. As he was returning home, he passes the lion carcass, which was filled with bees and honey. Pulled out the honey and ate it, which was against the Nazarite vow. Samson found out his new bride betrayed him at their wedding. This caused him to become enraged, which in return caused him to kill 30 men in the Philistine city. After traveling back home for a few months, he decides to make amends with his bride. But by then, her father married her off to someone else, causing Samson to become enraged again. But this time, he set the fields on fire after tying all the tails of foxes together. Again, his strength is unbelievable. God uses Samson's anger to be the judgment on the Philistine nation for the way he had treated God's chosen people. The Philistines ended up arresting Samson, but escapes because his strength was stronger than the shackles they had him in. Samson confides in God for water to soothe his thirst, and God grants his need. Samson is then falling for another Philistine woman, Delilah. Little does Samson know, she is part of the plot to take him down. Her job is to find out the source of his strength, and she does. He explains his hair is his strength and cannot be cut, but that doesn't stop them. As he is captured, they gouge out his eyes and he becomes blind, but his hair has been cut as well. As they bring out the battered man, Samson requests to be put between 2 pillars. This is where he bows to the Lord in prayer and requests strength from God one last time. The Spirit of God heard his plea, and strength poured into Samson's body. With one hand, one on each pillar, he began to push. As the columns moved, he knew God empowered him. He answered his prayer. Samson killed more people in his sacrificial death than he had killed during his entire life. I would describe Samson as a very prideful person. He idolized himself and his strength, which in turn is why he made some of the bad choices he makes. People can take pride in particularly anything, such as looks, possessions, intelligence, job, family, connections, gifts, and even religion. God does not deny us with these things, and they are not wrong within themselves. It's when we praise these things more than we praise God that creates the problem. When the Bible talks about pride or arrogance, it is talking about an idol or another God that is making there no place for the Lord in our lives. Proverbs 3:7 states, "Don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Instead, fear the Lord and turn your back on evil. Then you will gain renewed health and vitality." Do not let your own wisdom get in the way of the Lord's work through you, because his plan and wisdom is greater. The worst kind of pride is spiritual pride. Jesus understood that we as Christians who appear to be religious can also be incredibly vain. We need to be focused on being humble before God and not being spiritually proud. We often use the word pride or proud to describe a sense of accomplishment or desire to do well. For example, you get an A on a test, makes you feel proud. You land a new promotion at work, that makes you feel proud. Your child does something on their own without your help, makes you feel proud. These are examples used in everyday life that aren't necessarily to put someone or something above God, but are means to be well pleased with completed tasks or accomplishments. I think satisfaction in a completed job well done is proper. The Lord said, when we have done all we are, to remember that we are unprofitable servants and we have done what was our duty to do. The best way to eliminate pride is to look at yourself, your family, and your achievements as objectively as possible. However, knowing that you can do well is certainly not pride. For example, a fast runner wouldn't lie and say, "Oh, I'm just an old slowpoke." They would say, "God has given me the ability to run fast." You must make an honest appraisal of who you are. This is proper and glorifies the Lord. When you begin to compare yourself to others, you begin to get in trouble. Being proud of the Lord and boasting about Jesus is the kind of pride that is all right. I can relate to situations where I reflected Gideon, but I also can relate to situations where I reflected Samson. I think we can all relate to having self-doubt or being prideful at one time or another. Personally, I find myself relating to Gideon more than I do Samson. I lack self-confidence and struggle with self-doubt daily. I often question, what is God's plan for me? I often think about whether I'm good enough or I'm worth it. I question if I'm smart enough, am I strong enough, or am I gifted enough? Growing up, my life revolved around sports. I would eat, drink, and play sports. I would fit school and studies in there sometime, but only when I felt like it. Softball became my main sport, and of course I wanted to be a pitcher. I was told on numerous accounts that I wouldn't be able to because I was too short, or I wasn't strong enough, or I couldn't throw fast enough. I was encouraged to play other positions, but I wanted to at least try. I needed to prove to myself whether I could or couldn't do it. I had drive and determination, but I still cut myself short. I tried to stop listening to the comments made by others, that I wouldn't make it as a pitcher, that I'm too short, or I need to find another sport to enjoy, and so on. God left me with a decision to make. Even though I had doubt in myself, God was still providing me with a gift to use. His plans for us are bigger than anything we will ever have planned for ourselves. We have to put all self-doubt aside and trust God fully. He knows best. So in conclusion, we have two men appointed by God to protect the Israelites, but are completely different people. How can they both be considered judges? Gideon starts as a very timid, cowardly, and self-conscious leader, but ends up being strong because he listened to the Lord. Gideon's doubt almost cost him to lose his battle. If he would have questioned God any more than he did, I'm sure things would have ended just a little bit differently. God has big plans for us, but we can't sit back to question his every move. We need to fully trust in him, find out what is holding you back. Are you ready to flush away the self-doubt or put aside your pride to be the best warrior in life that you can be for the Lord? Amen.
Waking up to a new sunrise, looking back from the other side, I can see now with open eyes, darkest water and deepest pain, I wouldn't trade it for anything. 'Cause my brokenness brought me to you, and these wounds are story.